Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In my last video, I showed you how to clean our lovely little spring ramps and get all that dirt off of them. And then today I'm going to show you how to make a compounded butter, which is something that allows you to use your ramps throughout the rest of the year. They're quite an ephemeral item in spring, so you have to get them and enjoy them while you can. For me, I like to make this compounded butter because I can freeze it and I can use it on things throughout the rest of the year. So it's not a very difficult process, it just takes a little bit of time. So let's get started. So we're going to start with a skillet full of boiling water and a bowl full of ice water. I'm going to take roughly 2 small bunches of ramps that have already been cleaned, and I'm going to just put them in the skillet to let them blanch. So you want them in here for about 30 seconds. And this will get them nicely softened up and get things ready for us to make our compound butter. Now, once we've had them in for a little bit, we'll go ahead and put them in the ice water to stop the cooking process, and then we'll have to let them cool off just a little bit. Letting the clock run on this a bit. I'm going to give it a quick stir. Make sure, since everything's kind of floating a bit, that everything's getting a little bit of attention in the water. Now these are smaller ramps than you normally see later in the season. They have a smaller bulb, so they don't take quite as long to really blanch in here. So I'm going to go ahead, give this one more quick stir. Make sure we've sort of gotten everything. You don't want it cooked down to mush. That's not a good idea. We need it to be still a little firm. So I'm going to take these out. I'm going to drop them. And you just have to be kind of careful removing them. I don't need to burn myself today. And get everything submerged. And I got the last one. Alright, so we'll turn that off. Give this a quick stir. Let all the cooking stop. And let me check the temperature a little bit. Yeah. Now you'll see that this is quite soft at this point. And these have cooled down, so I'm going to take my towel. And I'm just going to pull these out of the water. I'm going to spread them out on a towel. This is actually more than I'm going to need for this recipe, but since I'm using this for a couple of different things later, I figured I'd just go ahead and blanch what I have so that I don't have to make a mess twice. So we'll let this dry a little bit and let the water kind of shake out, and we'll come back to it. Okay, so we've given our ramps a chance to rest and dry a little bit. I've tried to squeeze some water out. This is about half of what I initially put in the skillet. And it's going to yield not quite a 1/4 cup once we're done putting it in the mini chop here. So if you don't have a food processor or mini chop, go ahead and you can just chop them up really fine. What I'm going to do though before I turn this on is I'm going to go ahead and take a pair of kitchen shears and cut these up a little bit. Now if you're dealing with a larger bulb than this, then you may want to go ahead and chop it a little bit with a kitchen knife. This just makes this a little bit easier for the processor to deal with because I'm not using my big food processor here. Plus these are wet and a little, I don't want to call them slimy, but they are a little squishy. And so it doesn't always process the most efficiently. You're not dealing with a dried product, you're not dealing with a firm product. As you can see, this is just trying to get away. The green bits tend to be a little trickier when you try to process them. So just go ahead and give yourself a little head start by chopping them up a little bit before they go in. We're not going for this to be microfine, even in the finished product, but we don't want it to take forever to get this processed and keep fighting with the machine, because I've been there, done that. It's not really fun. So I see one that kind of escaped a little bit. We'll give that a little bit of love here. Now these are not as leafy as some of the ones that you'll see later in the season, where you'll see a lot of greenery on the ends. In that particular situation, what I tend to do is to go ahead, cut the bulbs up a bit more, put those in first, process, and then go ahead and add in some green slowly. Just because if you're dealing with, you know, a thicker white bulb than this, it needs a little bit more time, and you don't want to completely shred all the greenery. So I'm going to go ahead, pop this on. This is very simple. Give it a buzz. I'm going to take my little spatula here. Yes, it's from the Grinch, but you know, it fits. So that's what we're going to use on this project. Give it a little buzz. Now, as you can see, there's not a lot of stuff in here to, you know, get it down kind of deep. So we're going to smush this down a little bit. Now, you can see there's still bits and pieces, but there's not enough stuff in here to really firmly pack it against the blades easily. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our butter. Now ultimately we're using a pound of butter, and this one is a very nice Kerrygold, nice Irish butter. And I like the Kerrygold just because the color, it's just so pretty. It's just so pretty. And we're gonna go ahead, put a little bit of this in here to kind of mix in. This has been sitting at room temperature for a while, so it's very soft, and that's the goal. You don't want to go into this with cold butter because it just makes your work harder. So give this a process, and again we'll go in, we'll scrape it down a little bit. You can see it's sort of blending in, it's turning a little green. That's why we're not putting the entire block of butter in at this point, but this does help to process it a bit by having a little bit of something with substance in there. Scrape it down one more time. Try to pack it in against the blades, that way it gets nicely in there, and we're getting this ramp to mix in with our nice Irish butter. And we'll scrape down. It's looking pretty good. I mean, you can see that it's shredding. You have little bits, you have a little bit bigger bits. That's okay. It doesn't need to be completely uniform. We're just going to try to get this chopped up a little bit more. Okay. So I think that's pretty good. It's a little chunky, but that's okay. I like it a little chunky. And the thing with this, it's also going to tear apart a little bit more when we put this in the mixer, because what we're going to do with this is take this little bit of the beginning of compounded butter, Put it in a stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, if your butter's nice and soft, you can use a hand mixer. It works just fine. You just don't want to start with cold butter. Don't want to start with cold butter with this anyway, so that's okay. So we're going to take a moment and move things around. So I've gone ahead and I've transferred the butter with the ramps into our mixing bowl, and I've added the rest of our butter. So we have a pound of butter here. This paler one is Plugra, which is an American European style butter. And then of course we have the rest of the Kerrygold. I've used a salted butter and an unsalted butter in this. Now if you want to start with all unsalted, you can. If you want to start with all salted, you can. It sort of depends on your personal preference on this. I've gone ahead and attached the paddle to the mixer. We're going to crank this up, and we're just going to give this a quick stir on low. The butter's very soft, so I don't want to whip it too hard at this point. We're just incorporating the ramps into the rest of the butter. So in addition to our ramps, I have about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and I have not quite a teaspoon of lemon zest in here. It's kind of small and flaky. We're going to go ahead, bring this back up, give it another stir, a little faster this time. And you can see it's nice and incorporated. The other thing I'm going to do, I'll drop this back down, is add in a little touch of pepper. I know that seems a little weird, but it's actually very good. I'm going to scrape this down a bit. Sorry if I jiggle the camera too much. Just to get it all mixed in. Bring this back up. Okay, it looks pretty good at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, scrape it down a little bit here. I'm going to taste it to see if it has the right amount of salt, pepper, lemon juice, all of it. I would like a little bit more kosher salt in here. Now keep in mind, again, one of the half pounds of butter was already salted. So there is already salt in here. If you started with unsalted butter, obviously you're going to adjust your salt level to taste. Stir it up a little bit more. And I think we're good. So I've taken the butter and put it into a smaller bowl. And what we're going to do for storage is to make a little packet. These little packets, little rolls or logs, however you want to describe them, freeze very nicely and will let you use your ramp butter during the rest of the year when we don't have ramps available. So you start with a piece of press and seal wrap, and you just gently, or a little more forcefully, put some of your butter in the wrap. And you can go ahead and shape this, don't worry, my hands are clean, into a ball, in a little ball, in a little flatter log. Just try to squeeze some of the air out very gently. We don't want this to get freezer burn later. And then just sort of turn this over. Make sure you squeeze in the ends so that looks nice. And we'll set that off to the side. Now, if you want to be a little fancier, I have a little mini mini bread tin. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in my little bread tin, my little bread pan. We're going to get the rest of this up. Okay, so we're going to take our spoon, move that out of the way, and press the butter into your little bread pan, trying to fill it out a little bit. And this way you can go and make little bitty sticks if you so desire. So I'm going to scrape this down a little bit from the side, even it out. And what you can do is go ahead and, if you're feeling fancy, go ahead and put a piece of cling wrap, plastic wrap, wax paper over this and press it down to get it extra smooth. I don't feel that fancy today. And then go ahead, put this in the refrigerator. Let it firm back up because this is very soft right now. So go ahead, let it firm back up. Run the tin under a little bit of warm water so that it releases easier, and then you can cut this up in slices. So we'll come back to that. So I've popped the butter out of our little bread pan, and I had to smooth out the top a little bit because it was a little rough from being warmed up. But I'm just going to gently take a knife and separate this out. And if you want, you can shape it up a little bit more. If you used a larger bread pan, you could cut crosswise. Instead, you can make a nice little stick. Probably should have added a little bit more butter on this one, make it a little thicker. But we'll do as we did before. You can see the edges are a little rough, so you can smooth that out a little with your knife if you'd like. Make it a little prettier. Just be careful of the blade. You could use something less sharp like a spatula, but the knife is already here. So we'll just take this, fold this over. And we're going to just package up a nice little stick of butter. And we'll put this in the freezer to use at a later date. It's really good though to use it in place of a garlic butter. If you're going to make garlic bread, it's great on green beans. I always like to cook my green beans, drain them a little, and add some butter to them. It just gives it a little bit extra flavor. Also, a little pat of it on a steak is just excellent. So I hope you enjoy, and you can enjoy your ramps throughout the rest of the year. Thanks for watching.